The Smiling Faces podcast is now sponsored by TireSpot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. TireSpot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tirespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Always Smiling Faces podcast on the GallowgateShots YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Chris, joined by Mark, Decker, and Daryl is joining us this evening as well. Daryl has just returned from Brighton, so we'll hear his thoughts on that coming up.
Is that why you got your haircut like that? Because you went to Brighton? Yeah.
But you loved that one, did you?
Where do we start, boys? Where do we start?
Shall we just wrap it up and go home?
Let's go and enjoy the sun.
Yeah. It's been lovely today, hasn't it?
It has been lush. It has been lush.
How was the weather on Saturday?
Quite nice,
down
actually.
in Brighton.
It was actually really nice, sunny, warm. That's about the nicest thing that was there. Like,
Did you go to the beach?
No, nah.
You went all the way to Brighton and you didn't even go to the beach?
Could see the sea, but didn't go to the beach.
What time did you actually arrive there?
We got to Brighton at just after 4.
Oh, okay. Right.
So it was pretty much park up at the park and get on a bus and get to the stadium. There's nothing to do around where you were parked up.
Yeah.
So
Too late for a paddle.
And what time did you set off?
from North London, we set off at about 1:30ish.
Daryl, you don't live there.
I know.
know, I don't
What
live
time
there.
did you set off from?
From
Yeah?
Newcastle.
No.
Just-
Where do you think?
Well, I could have said if you want, I could have included the commute time from home when I left home at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, if that helps.
Right, yeah.
There we go.
We want your full itinerary, everything from
Right.
from Friday morning onwards.
All right,
From your
okay.
first morning shit. What?
No, we left. So I left home at 10, got a train at 12, because I had to get that done, and then got to London at 3. Got to London at 3. Had a night out in Camden on Friday, which was quite an experience, and then met Shell on Saturday lunchtime, and then we went from Shell's down into Brighton.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Makes sense now, yeah. Right.
Right,
Scorer.
let's just go for it. Decker, there was one force change to Eddie Howe starting 11. Sven Botman is injured, late fitness test. Well, Eddie Howe said on Friday in his press conference that there was a late fitness test, but apparently he had knocked on Eddie's door on the Thursday, said he wasn't going to play, or he wasn't able to play.
Big Joe had a late test as well.
He did.
He did,
Jordan
yeah.
had a late fitness test. God knows how he passed that. But once again, we will get onto that in just a minute. So yeah, one force change, Decker, which meant Target came in at left back. Dan Burn shifted across into that centre back position, which we probably all guessed was going to happen anyway. To a certain point, the only other option was probably at this moment in time, possibly start the cells in that position and keep Dan Burn at left back, because obviously it's probably a bit too early for Hall to come in that starting 11. Did you expect anything else, or
No, not really. I honestly didn't think Joe Linton would have made the game. That's the truth. I didn't think, whether he's declaring himself fit or not. Before that, seeing how he went off against the previous game, I didn't think we'd see him. So that was a surprise. And I suppose really there is, Dan Burn going into centre half, pretty fine with that at the time. Which I guess we'll come on to later, how your mind changes after 90 minutes. But yeah, I think it what else can you do? Do you know what I mean? I did secretly maybe think Hall might be perhaps ready, but then again, it's still early days, isn't it, for him? So probably is the best team that we could have put out there.
I think he could have even played Livramento. Could have stuck him in at right back and moved Trippier over to the left.
Yeah.
Plays there a lot.
stop trying to move Trippier left
Yeah,
back?
but he plays like in the circumstances, and that, like I
But
know.
there's no, but there isn't any need. Is it? If let's say Target was hurt, Hall was hurt, I don't know, and Burn was. All right, then maybe we'll push. But you've got a left
it's
back there to do it. Do you know what I mean? And like look at how all of our moves go from that right hand side all the time. I just feel that's such a disruption. Do you know what I mean? For no real reason.
Yeah.
I don't think so. You know what I mean? He's never played left back forward. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying he hasn't for us.
He has.
Has he?
Yeah. One
Well,
game.
I can't remember. But anyway,
Definitely.
that would be a drastic change.
Yeah,
I think
too many changes at the back.
Yeah.
If that was the case,
Yeah.
even though
You can do it next week like, if you want.
It did. The one you mentioned though probably made more sense with Lascelles.
Yeah.
Bring him in there.
We
and
brought him
leave
on
Dan
later
Burn
in the
where he
game.
is.
But one of the issues with that may have been the week that Lascelles had last week.
Well, it was a fortnight ago though, man, that he was scrapping.
It wasn't a fortnight ago, was it?
It was.
It was after the
It's a
Man City
fortnight
game.
ago.
Oh, was it?
It's only just
No, it
came
was after
out.
the Liverpool game, wasn't it?
No, it said it happened after the Man City game.
Oh, really?
Why is it taking that long for?
God knows why it's taken that long to get out, but yeah, it was on the Sunday
I
morning
don't.
after
I
Man
don't
City.
think. I honestly don't think that he hasn't played because of that.
Okay.
I don't. I just think he thought that putting Dan Burn centre half's absolutely fine. Target will do a job, and
Yeah,
And we'll be fine.
left-footed centre back. Well, left-footed player.
well, he
left
likes that,
centre-back,
doesn't he?
yeah.
Left and
Yeah,
right. To be fair,
yeah.
I do as well. Like
Yeah.
to be fair. But,
Mark, we did start pretty well though in the first 5-10 minutes.
We did. I think we could have been 1-0 up after 3 minutes.
Mhm.
Probably fair to say that we probably had the best chances in the early. We started off very well, closing them down, pressurizing the ball very well, and getting right up on them when they were trying to play it out from the back from the keeper. So yeah, I was quite hopeful at the start.
Darryl?
I think for me, we did, like you say, we did start really well and we had those good couple of chances with Isak. The way that we handled Brighton and their tactics, I think, was probably not the way we should have done it. I think the approach was probably wrong from us in that respect. And I respect Eddie, and I appreciate that he wants to push our style onto our games, and we have to try and do that every game. But I think we all saw how West Ham played Brighton last week, and I think we should have modelled our performance on that a little bit more. We would press up and try and man mark like the midfielders and the defence as he was trying to play it out from the back of the goalkeeper. But that left Ferguson and his forward partners nearly one-on-one with everybody else at the back. And in the first half in particular, all Dan Burn could do was just get a hold of Ferguson and either foul him or just throw him on the floor and do the same. So really, it really felt like we were getting exposed. And because the midfield was pushing up, we then had this massive hole in the middle of the park that Brighton were just happy to sit and exploit.
Which, to be fair, happened last week as well. It was the exact situation where we're pushing up into there. I don't think that lasted particularly long, though, because for me, the press and particularly the intensity that we normally play with in that, it only seemed to last for the first maybe 10, 15 minutes and then just went by the wayside a little bit.
I think one of the best way, do you know what is right? We'll scrap obviously going through the game itself and looking at individual moments within the game, right? Let's just talk about what happened overall. So if we start on the midfield, first of all, Decker, what has happened to our midfield? Because they are non-existent at the minute.
It's really difficult because listen, we did a video, like, just me and you, talking about Tonali's arrival and how he's looked and I think what I've noticed with him, right, is there's absolutely no question, right, that he's got abundance of quality in moments in games, right, and it's probably because it's early doors though. There's no sense of like he doesn't sort of at the minute he can't control a game, if that makes sense. It's more so there's just flashes of great moments. So it was a great tackle there. Maybe a good pass here and there, but there's not actual physical control in the midfield. Now, it's difficult to do at Brighton. I'm not saying it's easy, but for me, we seem to just play with a flat three, right? So at times we don't know. I don't think even them know who's going to be the one that's holding, who's the one that should be going, and it just seems there's no chemistry there. I wouldn't say at all because against Villa there was, right, but at Liverpool I thought it was a problem, and certainly at Brighton it was a huge problem. And I think the reference to the start of the game, yes, we had chances. I wouldn't necessarily say that we pressed them into that many mistakes. I actually just thought them were really poor in the first 5 minutes. Them were just making some really bad passes and mistakes.
The left back was up against it.
Yeah. And Isak probably should have done better. Maybe definitely was the one I think that got pulled back across. I think it was by Miggy, I think. Or maybe Tonali actually.
It was Tonali. Because that was it. We pressed them in right into the corner and they tried to play out from the corner and then played a ball out. And then it came to Tonali, who then ran to the byline, cuts it into Isak. And now, potentially should do better in that position.
Now, to fast forward almost to the end, but how can I put this? I don't understand why Tonali's the one keep getting pulled all the time. Now, Bruno I thought was awful again, right? I really did, and I feel like now I'm coming on every week and I seem to mention his name all the time. Sorry, Mark, but I because I feel like I am, and I'm not doing it to be a dick or anything. I'm not. But I am not
Oh,
seeing.
hey, I don't take it personal. Like
No,
you
I
and
know,
Maxi. I'm not going to start up the
I feel like I'm you.
the Bruno defense league.
Like roles have switched, haven't they, this season?
He doesn't. I'm unsure of what he's really bringing. He doesn't look anywhere near as energetic. He doesn't look as fierce. He doesn't look as good on the ball. Every pass seems to be laboured or like not hit hard enough or dragged. Holds on to the ball too long. But he'll never be taken off. Now, my thought is he scared to bring him off because we know how emotional he is and he doesn't want to do that or upset him? I don't know.
It's on the verge of signing a new contract as well.
There is that as well. But I think it's fair to say that the chemistry's not there, is it? Now, the problem you've got in the Premier League as well is you kind of just say, well, we'll just keep playing that until it comes right.
Yeah.
Because you'll be 5-6 games down and you haven't won yet. You can't just learn on the job, like I'm afraid, in the Premier League.
I think we're going to find very quickly that it's going to be a case. We're going to have to maybe go a couple of games where it's going to be you start one of them out of Bruno and Tonali, and when you make the change, that's the change. It's one for the other at that point in a game because there's definitely seems to be some sort of imbalance in that midfield, and it's not really the dynamism in it is just not there. It's not the same.
There's so many times right now. Well, back four has always been slow, right? So you've got Burn and you've got Shea yesterday are very, very slow, right? Now, with not having an actual number 6, or I don't think anyone really protecting.
So yeah, I totally.
Well, I think
I'm totally against that because you
look
said
at that Ferguson goal. He just comes off Burn. There's absolutely no one in between the lines at all.
Yeah.
There's no one there.
But we changed by that point. We'd made a substitution by that point and brought Longstaff on.
Well, for
me, you said just before there that we'll have a very flat 3, and I don't think we do at all. And I think that is part of the problem is that for me, Bruno's definitely sitting the deeper. Tonali's playing on that right-hand side a little bit further forward, is in where you'd traditionally have had Longstaff, and then Joe's sitting the left. So them two are kind of in front of Bruno.
Are you saying though when Bruno's got the ball? I think more when we haven't got the ball. Well, I don't see any protection at all, personally.
And that's the difference because when Longstaff's in the team, you'll see him drop back alongside Bruno. Yeah. So and then there's the pair of them.
I absolutely agree. When we've got the ball, Bruno, of course, is sitting deep and he's the one. And I get that. Absolutely. I just find it more that when the opposition's got the ball, we don't have anyone that sits there and protects. And that's when I look at Bruno and think, well, when you're on the ball, I'm not really seeing you do anything, to be honest. And when you're off the ball, I'm not seeing anything.
That's a consequence of because you've got Bruno and Tonali and don't like, because that chemistry between them isn't quite right yet. Like one of them doesn't know what the other's doing or when they're supposed to do a certain thing. So if
Tonali goes, why you made the change.
Tonali does a lot of venturing forward and very much like what Longstaff used to do. But then when possession's turned, there's a holes because he's not able to get back because he's ventured so far away from.
If anything, I think part of the issue is that Tonali's playing in a bit of a position that's alien to him.
I think
he's used to more sitting. And I think we touched on it last week. We're massively missing Joe Willock in there as somebody that will get the ball in the middle of the park and look to drive forward, look to be on the offensive. Whereas we don't have that at the moment because trying to play Tonali as somebody that's going to be picking passes and trying to get you on, he's not that kind of player. He's very much how you've just described of picking up the ball, giving a simple, keeping the ball moving, turning it over very quickly. He can't do that in the position that he's being played at.
And I think that's because we're playing Bruno in the role where I think Tonali should be there.
So why not just change them? Because Bruno, we saw Bruno in that first 6 months that he was here. He played in that more advanced role on there. I don't know whether it's because he doesn't think Tonali's up to the physicality of the Premier League yet and might struggle with that because he does tend to have played when there's somebody alongside of him. And I think had Joe Willock have been fit, we might have seen that. We might have seen Tonali and Bruno alongside each other in the middle with Willock in front of them as the point of a 3 and playing it that way. But we don't have anybody other than maybe Anderson that you could maybe put it, but you're trying to fit a square into a round hole there. The issue is you're trying to fit a brand new player into a system that he's not used to playing. He's playing in a position that he's not used to playing in, and he's still looking bloody good. Let's not make no bones about that because he is. But that's because of the quality that he's got. If he was playing in his right position in a way that he's used to playing, then you'd see even more from it. But
to be fair though, I think when he was at Milan, I think he did have a role where he could sit in either position. He could play higher up the field, but the difference is that he would be getting a hell of a lot more time in that position than what he's going to get in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what it is? Somehow the conversation's gone to Nali when I think out of those midfield three that we're seeing at the minute, he's been head and shoulders above the other two at the minute.
Well, yes. We'll come on to the goal soon, I would imagine.
Let's just start with the first goal. Let's start with the first goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
because one of the talking points with the first goal, like I said, I'm not going to go through every little moment of the match there, but one of the talking points is going to have to be Nick Pope. Has to be. Because what happens when he comes out of his box?
Well, I said last week, didn't I? RoboCop. He just seems to seize up, literally seizes up. And the problem you've got in the Premier League is you find that as the game's advancing, your goalkeeper becomes more and more and more important to start moves off and be calm on the ball. Now, I know to us, right, watching the TV, there's a pass to Trippier, right? That's the pass, right?
Yeah. Trippier's asking for it.
It's there right in front of you. Now, what I would say, if in that moment he doesn't have the confidence, because there was a player there. Now, listen, it's still a makeable pass, but maybe in that moment he's thinking, that could get intercepted. He should still have the ability to clear it better than what he did. Yeah. And that's what's people are more annoyed that he didn't pass a Trippier. I'm more annoyed that the clearance was so poor. If you're going to lace it, put your laces through it. Put your laces through it.
And I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to, of course, he's not trying to pass it to their player.
No.
Which is the way some people are going on that, well, why has he done that? It's not like he's done it on purpose.
No.
It's been a mistake. So he's always trying to put it over the top of them because then we are in. That's what he's looked at and tried to play. But
do you think
he's looked at a mistake and he's miskicked it?
Do you actually think he's looked up and thought, I'm going to play this pass? Because I think he's just trying to hit that as hard as he can.
You can see him as the ball's there. You can see him looking up the pitch.
I think
to
he's
see what's
just
on.
trying hitting that and getting rid of it.
He's got loads of time on that, and he's looking up the pitch.
He hasn't got loads of time.
He can do it.
No,
he hasn't got loads of time. I think he's just hitting an open, and unfortunately for him, it's just a bad connection on the ball.
Yeah. I mean, you see, as soon as he connects with it, he almost slips when he does it, and then he's struggling to get back to his goal.
The thing is, I think we all feel nervous when he comes out of his box or when he's on the ball.
We saw it a handful of times against Liverpool.
Yeah, the problem is that I'm finding that these moments are coming around more and more and more. And isn't that, I don't want to bash him and say we need to get rid of him or anything. I'm just saying how I feel every single time that ball's coming near him. I have this tension in my bloody hell. Yeah, we'll go RoboCop.
Do you not think this is maybe a consequence of us being because opposition teams are now really doing their homework on us, that they're sort of identifying it as a weakness and that's what they're targeting?
I wouldn't say that necessarily though, because it's normally from our own mistakes that he normally gets put in that sort of position.
Well, certainly, obviously, going back to that goal, I mean, it was an absolute calamity, and obviously Pope's mistake at the start. And now, to be fair, he does pull off a good save.
He does
almost immediately after that.
Yeah.
It's Matoma that has a shot, then he sticks his left boot out.
He clears it well, and you think, you've.
And then again, if
you can just
if Tonali then clears it,
even if you do forget about
it's
that.
Gone.
I know.
It's a half-arsed effort by Tonali.
Well, there's a few half-arsed efforts in this game, but that obviously is almost the start of a very, very lazy sort of swing of the leg. And it's for me, it's the reaction of that poor clearance attempt. It's after that's almost even worse because he just doesn't even charge out. No, well, my question for you is: do you blame? Well, actually, sorry, do you agree with Tonali that was a lazy leg and he should have? Yeah, that is poor. Do you think Pope could have done better on the actual effort, or do you think he did much as he could and tried to just get rid of it, or what was your thoughts on that?
I think it's on. I would love to know the speed that ball's hit at, because
it was quick.
It was some absolutely smashes.
Yeah.
I don't think Nick Pope can do much about it. It comes through a body of players, so I think he does all right just to.
I think it's
he's not ended up in the net with it, to be honest.
When I seen it live at the time, I was like, he should maybe do better. But when I watched it back, I'm thinking that isn't half coming on him.
It's a great poacher's goal by Ferguson as well. Right place, right time. All he needs to do is stick his foot out and he's in the back of the net.
The only thing, to that point, is in hindsight, he knows he's not going to catch it the way that it's coming. Is he just reacting to it and just trying to block it? Maybe. But could he have, fisted it clear or something like that rather than try to because he does kind of almost get caught between trying to half catch it and half just palm it away.
I definitely think he wants to try and catch it, but I think he realized it's so hot he can't. But it was just such a calamity, man. It was like a goal we used to concede, in the Bruce days, wasn't it? It really felt that way, where it was like bad kick, half-ass clearance. It was just dreadful. It really was dreadful. But you're 1-0 down, aren't you? You know what I mean? And the thing that I wanted to mention at the start here was for me the entire game. our identity as a team that we know was gone.
Yeah.
It felt like it was gone, and this was what was that to me, right, was a really worrying performance. Now, the reason why I've calmed down a little bit is I think, well, I've seen a hell of a lot of good from her for so long, so I'm not going to panic, right? But in isolation, that's a worrying performance for me in terms of team shape, were intensity, were aggression, were quality on the ball. We couldn't even pass the ball 5 yards, man.
Yeah.
We were just losing the ball all the time. There was no pressing from the players. And then these errors, these mistakes, these stupid mistakes. It was just so unlike us, unlike how it really was. It was a shock to me. Like,
I don't know, because we did exactly the same down at Brighton last season. The difference is we scraped a draw when we didn't deserve it.
Yeah, it was a
very poor performance down there last year.
That performance that we saw against Brighton there was more similar to the performance at Villa away.
Oh yeah,
it was a second half was a shocker. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, I sat here last week and said we'd get beat.
You did, yeah.
Because Brighton are a very good team.
But Mark, I'm honestly, right, I'm not asked about losing. I'm not sitting here now thinking, yeah, we're terrible because we've lost. It was the performance.
Yeah.
You can lose a game of football, but there's a way to lose, and that's not it. Like,
but Brighton also impact that in the way that they play, because they were the epitome of what we normally are: fast, aggressive.
So why do you think I honestly looked like the us had played a Europa League game Thursday night?
Like that game that you've just mentioned, Villa did exactly the same to us last season at their place, and hammered with. Brighton did exactly the same, but we just couldn't cope with it.
That again comes down to our approach, and maybe we should have been prepared to change our approach to the game and attack it more like West Ham did the previous week, like we said before, because they showed that if you sit back and let Brighton have the ball, if they're not prepared to try and get through you, then you can break on them and counter. And we have the bodies that we can do that. We have the players that are able to do it. We've done it before, even when we've been dominating games on the press. Once we get penned back, we can break on teams and absolutely floor them with a counter attack. And again, it just felt like it was missing on Saturday.
But let's be honest, though, every time Brighton got the ball, it looked like we were under pressure. Every single time.
What was that, sorry?
Every time Brighton got the ball, we looked under pressure.
Oh, 100%. The other thing as well is obviously sometimes certainly when Trippier got the ball, them knew for a fact what the game plan is from us. As soon as Trippier got the ball, the way they pressed him, he had nowhere to look, nowhere to go. And the amount of times he either passed it out of play, but I seen him shouting at the players going, lads, you've got to give us something here.
And that's what I'm saying. You've got to give Brighton credit. But yes, we looked terrible, but that's got a lot to do with how Brighton played. I mean,
so if we lose every single game, well, you got to give the opposition credit. We have to do your favourite word, adapt. We have to adapt. We have to overcome.
I'm not disputing that, but it's almost like it's that whole expectations piece of, oh well, it's just Brighton. Of course, we're going to turn up. I don't think that you had that a little bit against Man City and Liverpool.
I don't think anyone thought that about Brighton.
No, I don't know. Like,
there might be.
So why is it the end of the world that was suddenly got?
No, it's not. It's not the end of the world. What you cannot sit there. You cannot sit there and think that performance is acceptable. It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrific. It looked at times as if we've honestly never played together before. It was as if we're a new team. We've never played together before, and we're trying to understand each other's runs and stuff. The amount of times that we lost the ball, it just so sloppily. It wasn't even because Brighton sometimes were putting under pressure. We literally couldn't pass a ball. Like, and I know I sound like I'm overreacting. I'm not asking for anyone to be sacked. I'm not asking for anyone to be sold. I'm just saying that in isolation, that certainly the second half was absolutely atrocious. Like,
I've obviously seen some of Trippier's comments afterwards about how the game went, and I do agree with them. And you could see on the pitch as well that certainly after the second and third goals went in, he was absolutely doing his nut at everybody around him. And I think everybody, like that team that was playing, has to come together and actually, like you say, have to really come together and say, look, that was really worrying and poor from us.
Did you doing your nuts? He was one of the ones that were terrible.
Well, yeah, he did do it.
He was probably the worst in the back.
I'm sure he would admit that, though. That's the thing. I'm sure he'd be happy to admit that himself.
Did you see Target trying to run? Did you see Target? Hey,
hold on. Target should have been playing every single game for the last 18 months.
It was like he was running on the beach or something in sand or treacle or something.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was watching him run back. But again, for me, the full team, honestly, it looked like we had played midweek and we were playing against a fresh Brighton team who's had a week off type of thing.
It did very much feel like a hangover after Liverpool, where you wanting to see a result from that and a reaction.
He didn't get it,
and well,
we did.
We did. Well, just not the way that we wanted to see.
So that's something which everybody's been talking about over the last X amount of days, saying that we need a reaction because of how bad we were that second half against Liverpool. And it was worse.
Yeah.
Oh God, it was.
It was
Second half
worse.
was pretty bad.
And I get, right. Do you know what it is? There will be. There's nobody in the comment, which I'm really surprised about. But there will be people online. We've seen people online saying that, oh, but the players had such a great season last season. Nobody's disagreeing with that, right? Yes, a fantastic season last year. But Eddie Howe keeps on saying, judge each game, right? Every game. So only he's focused on the next game, right? If we're just, like I said, solely and isolating this one game, that was horrendous.
Well, that's the problem with what we're doing, right? Because we're taking an autopsy on every game,
Yeah.
right? So you can only, do you know what I mean? It's like, Christ, well, we finished 5th on the Pardew, and we were sitting 12th or whatever the year after. I wasn't going, it's all right, we finished 5th the year before, it's fine. You know what I mean? You, in isolation, you have to look at what you're looking at. Now, as I said, I sat here before a ball was even kicked and said, we are going to probably have a bad run this year at some point, because last year when we lost 5 games, that's just not going to happen again, right? Well, I lost 3 already. But you've just got to believe in that Howe is so switched on and motivated and has great ideas that it will get through it. And I believe we will get through it. I do. It was just a really tough on the eye on and it was, I think I keep mentioning this, it was the identity of what I know we are.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it at all on Saturday, and that was what worried me.
And that's why I'm saying as well, Brighton enforced that on as much as
they don't enforce. It's not only with a lazy leg. They don't force Shea to act like it's 5-a-side for a pub league to try and defend. It was horrific
by that point.
It was horrific.
But to be fair, I probably think he was probably carrying an injury by that.
Still,
I know, like it's making excuses, but
that's still half-arsed.
It's 100%.
I know I'm jumping around now.
No, that's fine.
That was absolutely disgusting from Shea for that own goal. It was the most lazy leg I've ever seen. Well,
that was a hat trick.
Well,
I know. How can they possibly give that goal to him?
Some player,
it's a joke.
Do you know what it is when your luck's out? That's the kind of goal you concede. Like,
but it's out when you react like that. Just this lazy. That was awful. But again, if you just think of that moment again, that's not an Eddie Howe team, is it?
No.
Do you know what I mean? That's the Shea I seen on Bruce. Giving up, tools down. I'm a bit hurt. Whatever. It was just awful that for me. Like, but. Anyway,
so we're going to talk about that second goal.
Come on, because Daryl, I know this has been really annoying you.
Honestly,
this second goal.
That second goal where we just seem to, it's like the parting of the Red Sea, and everybody just disappears, and Ferguson just says, "Right, I'm just going to walk through the middle and bat it in from 25 yards into the bottom corner." And it's like,
well, again, it's
a very good finish, though.
It is. Don't get me wrong.
It helps when Pope gives him 2-mile hit.
And
Pope standing way over the wrong side. He's Pope standing over the wrong side of the goal.
Just offside.
Burn is in his sight, and then all of a sudden, Burn's like 5-10 yards on his left, and the space just opens up. And I don't know what happened.
Well, this is the problem.
What happened was that Burn's left with 2 players. He's got Ferguson, and
is that because Target was still stuck in the quicksand?
The midfield. No, it's that going to that midfield of that.
Yes.
Nobody picks up that midfield because they're pressing the ball, and he just comes short for it. Which means then Burns then into saying, well, if I go with him, I'm now leaving another man who's in straight through here, in behind us. So he has to drop back and go with the man that's coming in from midfield, which then just leaves him in the naked because there's nobody sat there. Because by that point, Longstaff had came on, and then him and Bruno were up because we're probably chasing the game a little bit as well to try and get back into it. And then that just leaves, and as 9 times out of 10, a player will pick up the ball there. And he'll try something like that, and it'll go flying over, it'll go wide, or it'll go straight into the keeper's hands. That kid's had a hell of a day. Hell of a day. And he's picked, and he couldn't have placed that any better than he does. It's right in the corner. And I don't care what goalkeeper you are, even if he's standing bang in the middle, even if he's standing another step to the left, so he's close to that post. You don't think you're doing some good to get over into that?
It is like, I think it was Adam that put it in the WhatsApp group straight away, saying that look where Pope's standing.
He's just off centre.
Yeah,
he's just off centre.
He's 100%. He's not mine, but 100%. I don't think his positioning is wrong as such. Like, but the fact that like you're saying, Burn just shifts, then at that moment the position's wrong. There's nothing he can do about it at that point. I'm not necessarily saying it's Pope's fault because it's not. It's everybody else.
Very good. Very good finish.
It's one of them again, though, isn't it? Where I still believe that sometimes the pace at the back that we don't have, like when he drops, Burn kind of go with him because he thinks I can't physically get back. You know what I mean? So and then
he can, as I say, because it leaves a man.
I know, but again, I'll go back. I'll go back.
That it's just a simple straight past to him, and he's doing one.
Well, not necessarily. Not if Burns on his arse, he has to turn with the ball. Yet if Burns on his arse, how many times did he clatter him in the first half? Because Ferguson was doing that all first half, just coming in between the lines. Because as I mentioned, we don't have a number 6 for some reason that'll physically defend. So Ferguson was just picking up in that lines. He did it all first half, and Burn was just body slamming him.
Yeah,
got to be careful with that. And as I say, this time, but the thing is, with Ferguson's clever though. When he's 18-year-old, and he constantly kept picking it up in them pockets. And this time, Burn thought, "I kind of go now," and then the damage is done.
He's going to be a hell of a player. I mean, we saw it last season.
Yeah,
in the games that he came in, he's a special talent.
The third goal, was that where Julian lost the ball twice?
I meant
the same phase of play.
I actually meant to ask this, because there was a one Bruno actually gave him the ball, made a lovely little run actually, and Julian tried to give him it back, and for some reason didn't, and then we lost it, and then
I think he got it back, then lost it again, doing the same thing.
Well, the second goal even had an element of luck to it as well before that, because the ball comes loose in the middle of the park, and Billy Gilmore just tries to slide in and get something on it, and he manages to toe poke the ball forward, just beating Bruno to it, which is what then opens up the complete midfield, because it's just that toe poke to play it through. And that's what takes the midfield out. So again, on another day, Bruno wins that ball and we're on the attack.
I mentioned it earlier, right, as part of saying about Botman being injured and that, and the Joe Linton had a late test. Do you think Joe Linton was fit?
God,
I don't think so.
God, no.
I don't think he was.
You within the first 20 minutes. God,
and
no.
from what
any of them were fit.
I think he had literally only started light jogging on either the Thursday or the Friday as well.
I've seen House press conference, and I think I've seen another one. Like, obviously, it's different media he's talking to.
Yeah.
And there's definitely, I watched 3 actually, and one of them, he definitely kind of admits he made a mistake there and said, it was actually on hindsight, I probably wouldn't have started him.
Like Darryl said, it was actually in his pre-match conference where he said Julian hasn't trained all week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Big risk.
And you go back to
but it's because he's an important player normally for what he does of breaking things up and winning the ball,
but it's a difficult one, and isn't House in a very difficult position for making these decisions. But you go back and you think of Isak when he's signing, and we're going on. And his quote was, "He's fit, but he's not fit enough to play for my team." Does that make sense? Yeah. And then you've got someone in the engine room of a midfielder who hasn't trained all week to go and play against a team like Brighton. You're not playing League One opposition here. You're playing against a hell of a good team.
Do you not think that also then factors in on his thinking with these substitutions in midfield, with why he's taken off Tonali? I think there's probably an argument of that he was trying to bring Longstaff back in and try and set up that 3 that would seen there, as well as the fact that because it's always around that 65, 70 minutes.
Somebody put a tweet out on the morning of the game which said, "Can't wait for our fullbacks to be struggling and for the substitutions to be Longstaff and Wilson." Yeah. And it happened. It happened.
I mean,
to be fair, the Wilson one was decent.
And well, I will come on him at some point actually. But in your opinion, what you've seen there, would you have took Tonali off or would you have took Bruno off?
Based purely on performance and in the game, no, because Tonali was probably the highlight in midfield.
Oh, so you would have kept him.
Yeah,
yeah.
But you don't, like as I say, you don't know if it's sports science saying that he can only last that amount because he's not up to speed yet, or I suppose it's just that thing of wanting to get back and go back to something that we know previously has worked with having Longstaff. That so if Bruno is going to push on and we're going to be chasing the game, which is ultimately what we're trying to do, that then offers you a bit more cover and breaks up the midfield a little bit.
If anybody does have any questions, send them through our way. We'll go over a couple more things and then come on to the questions before we wrap the show up at the end there. A couple of other things which I want to mention, okay, is Gordon missing the target from 8 yards out.
Yeah.
That is criminal that he's not even...
It was loads. Isak was the same. Isak, Gordon.
Was finishing. I think Isak was probably one of the bright spots because I think when he got the ball, he looked like he was trying to create something, and whether that... Obviously, he was feeding off scraps when he was up top by himself, but then when he got shifted to the left-hand side, he was creating a couple of chances there as well. He cut that ball across, and for not a single midfielder to follow the ball last season, it was like there was a string attaching every single player on the field, and everybody moved.
Well, there was plenty of people in the box. There were just
there was nobody.
They were ahead of the ball.
No. Well,
no. It was just
Gordon was off the field.
Gordon had made a run around the back post when ideally, if he the
held his run,
the
ball
should have come across.
That doesn't necessarily annoy me. What annoys me,
there was
is that there's about 5 Brighton players. Just thank you very much, and I think our next closest player was Tonali on the halfway line. Like, that is absolutely horrendous. And that's nothing to do with how well Brighton played. That's about how lazy we were at following the rest of the players up the field.
Well, I felt, other than the first couple of minutes, again, I thought Isak looked very isolated again.
He did, yeah.
And I think that goes back to what Mark's saying, that missing Joe Willock, I think, is huge on that one, I think, in terms of him being able to carry the ball and get closer. Because when he went out left, I had a feeling he might be more dangerous because he was picking the ball up earlier, being able to drive at people. It didn't quite work out. A few bad touches. He had a few chances to beat one man and just unfortunately showed him too much of the ball.
I'll tell you what I noticed as well. When Miggy went off and Gordon was switched over onto the right-hand side, it was as if Miggy was still on the pitch. Sometimes, because Gordon would take the ball, go forward, stop turning, then pass it back to Trippier.
Yeah.
It was exactly the same.
Yeah,
exactly the same.
We didn't get Gordon involved at all on the left-hand side at any period in the game. I didn't feel. It was just so bad, wasn't it? Like, it was so bad. Now, I do want to come on. Well, the third goal, obviously, I mentioned Shea. That's appalling. That was just horrendous. But when Wilson did come on, now this is, if you're going to press and you're going to be the team that we need to be, you need your striker to be the first line of defense, right? And I really felt Wilson was that when he come on. He was charging with real purpose. Do you know what I mean? And I thought that, I actually thought when he come on, we got better, to be honest, for that period.
I genuinely thought that Brighton would have been the perfect game to have started Wilson rather than Isak, because Isak's, didn't really get a goal against Liverpool, and that's not necessarily his fault. But I thought, normally when this sort of thing happens, both lads are so potent in front of goal that they can rely on anyone to start and anyone to come on as a sub. I thought maybe that was the time for Wilson to start. I was expecting Wilson to start, to be honest.
I think it's flip of a coin with the two at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't grumble if either one of them was starting any game.
Yeah.
Because I think they both do a job completely different to each other. Like, but I think
Wilson was really battling with their centre halves for some of the longer balls, whereas I find Isak, and that's no offense to Isak, it's not his game, right?
And that's what you're going to get though against Brighton. I'm with you, because Lewis Dunk's going to be all over you, fouling you for the entire game. So you need somebody that's going to give back as much as they're getting, and that's where, like, I was surprised that you didn't see that, because it did feel more of a game that was probably more suited to Wilson. And when he did get that chance, I mean,
it's a brilliant goal.
It's a brilliant goal. Brilliant finish.
Really is a brilliant goal. I took it so well, didn't he?
I was saying this to Daryl on the way through. Do you think we've lost that arrogance that we had to a certain degree last season, where every player was a bit of a shithouse? Because we look like a soft touch so far, like.
Well, certainly the Liverpool second half, I felt that way, and definitely on Saturday. Now, to be fair, Mark's made a good point that, you look at the Villa game, last season, even though we won a great run, you look at the Villa game, we got humbled against them. So I suppose there's always going to be moments in the season where you will lose a game and it just doesn't look like you at all. I just feel, obviously, I'm not panicking. I'm not, but it was just, as I repeat, I just thought it was a worrying performance based on what I've seen. Like, it wasn't us.
I think it's just because it came straight off the back of that second half against Liverpool. And like you said earlier, like, we lost games last season, but there were few and far between. It feels worse because they've come very, very closely together. But realistically, we're only a point worse off from exactly the same fixtures as we were last season. And like I said, we were very lucky to get a point last season away to Brighton. We didn't deserve it, and we came away with one.
I'll give you the answer that I gave to Chris when he asked us in the car on the way over. And I said to him, I think it might be down to these changes in rules, because we can't be shithouses anymore, because you can't waste time, because it was get added on at the end. You can't.
Well, it depends who you are.
Well, you can't necessarily misbehave, because you could end up just getting a yellow card for nothing. So I think that element is affecting how we perform like that, because you don't want to have somebody having a word in the ear of the referee, because if it's not the captain, he's getting a booking straight away for dissent. And then, like I said, because everybody's afraid to add all this extra time onto games, then we can't start messing around with the ball and just like rolling it away or, blasting it or whatever. I mean, I know that always got your yellow card anyway beforehand, but those extra little incentives that made our game a little bit more rugged and tough and ready, and it's just not there. And I think that's why.
You see, I don't know, you think of the Liverpool, if we go back a game and go back to that first half, I still thought for that first half an hour, we were the Newcastle that we are. Does that make sense? We didn't give them we didn't let them breathe on the ball.
We were at it.
We really were, we really were. And I just feel like against Brighton, I don't know what it was, but like we didn't seem to have any real purpose or go in with, which was other than maybe the first 5 minutes or so, with them couple of chances.
I think it's harsh, like 5 minutes.
10 then. But like for a good
but
period of
even
that game, mate.
In the
we just-
first half, we went in 1-0 down, but on another day, we had probably the best 3 chances in that first half, and we didn't score from any of them.
I think Sky put a stat on though that said fewest touches of the ball in the first 6 names were Newcastle players in the first half. I think Gordon had 8 touches of the ball.
Well, that's because we were just letting them have the ball.
Were we? I don't think we were letting them have the ball. I just don't think we could get the ball.
That man, yes,
They hold possession really well.
Goodness me, sometimes when we did try and press, for all I don't think it was as intense as what I'm normally saying, but we did try and they just passed it around with.
Yeah.
Their goalkeeper was like Maradona at times.
Oh, aye.
He was unbelievable.
He had a great
you know?
game as
He
well.
really did.
Spreading it around like
He made
Johnny
an
Longdon.
immense save that the deflected shot that
that
Miggy
was
had.
what Miggy did. Yeah, that was a good save.
Did
yeah.
Miggy take the shot with his right foot as well?
He
He did, didn't he?
He did. It was a good save.
I
That.
was hoping that went
I
in
know.
just to shut people up.
Yeah.
I was as
He's
well. I
still
actually
getting
got-
in the neck, Miggy.
Well,
Poor Miggy's still getting
oh,
in the neck.
The new scapegoat, didn't he?
Yeah, I actually didn't think Miggy was too bad in times in the game. Actually, to be fair, but I think that's because you always get that energy. You always see that energy, don't you? So
Yeah.
you maybe I'm guilty of giving him a bit of a free pass.
Do you
for
think
that
a lot
season.
of this conversation and how it changes relies on the next game, Brentford? If you get beat at Brentford, I bet you that this
I'm
conversation
not
will go a
worried
different
sitting
way.
here today that we've lost these games.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the manner of the defeat isn't great, but fast forward a month, 2 months down the line, and we still haven't won a game. Yes, me.
If we just look at the Brentford game, though, if we look at the Brentford game and we'll lose that one, are you going to start scratching your head at that point?
If the manner of defeat is similar to what we're seeing in the two second halves of the last 2 games,
Which
then-
I don't think it will be like.
No, I don't think.
I think we'll come out all guns
There'll be.
blazing. Like,
I don't know care who it is,
I thought
but
we'd
somebody
do
in
that
that.
against Brighton.
but we did.
For
We
10
did
minutes.
for the
10
first 10 minutes
Well, 10 minutes
until
is no
Brighton
good,
then
though,
got a
is it?
foothold in the game.
I found it
It's-
quite strange, and this is me not that. Like, I just found it strange how at the end of the game was saying like he's seen a lot of good in it, and he was saying like,
He's
oh,
always gonna say that.
there was some good moments in the game. I was thinking, okay,
They're
say
the
that,
ones that he has to keep to like bring them down after he's like just
Yeah.
tore strips off them.
He
on
would have
video analysis.
he would have been gambalistic.
I would have like because it was poor, wasn't it? It was poor.
Let's go through some of the questions. Okay. First one up is from Northumberland Geordie, who says, "Evening lads, can you discuss how the team just looks so fatigued? It seems like most of them were running through mud. It's a bit worrying while we're only playing 1 game a week at the moment. Like we highlighted this earlier on, is that we'll probably expect this sort of performance on the back of a midweek game.
Yeah.
To have it as your 4th game into a new season, I don't want to use the word worry. I don't want to, because obviously the teams that we played against, we've had the worst start we possibly could have. Okay, and that's factually correct. But still, they should not be blown out the arse. Like, far from it.
Sound like Alan Pardew. Yeah, it was very hot on Saturday, wasn't it? It was too hot for them.
I don't really have an answer as to why. Like, I don't.
I think that's
I don't-
one more for the number crunchers to get into and then start looking at running distances and then comparing them to either the games last season or whatever. Because if we're doing a lot more running than everybody else, then of course we're going to look a bit more tired, aren't we?
We will be for chasing the ball.
Exactly.
Obviously, that does of course tire you out because you're just chasing the ball all the time, and you know that's obviously going to happen. But I just felt in everything that we did, it looked sluggish, it looked slow.
Half-arsed.
It didn't. It was poor. It was poor. There's no getting away from it. I don't know. I can't answer that. Like,
Next one up is from our very own Ian. He says, it's possibly... Oh, right, okay. So he's going straight into the transfer strategy. Okay, saying that, do you think our transfer strategy was wrong? We've not improved the starting 11, but have added depth.
Oh, I wouldn't say we haven't improved the starting 11.
well, I seen. I don't know if I've read this or seen it, but it was a funny opinion. So anyway, the opinion I don't know if I was talking to someone about this, but I feel as if they've had a thought process of right. You can look at it 2 different ways, can't you? So one way you look at the starting 11 and go, right, we believe that 11 that performed last season weren't punching above the weight, okay? And that's just what they are, right? And we are more than happy to continue with that because how we'll just get the same level out of them. But we will bolster, Barnes perhaps, what do you call them?
Livermento.
Yes,
Hall. Tonali.
and looking definitely for the future. Now, I think Tonali, obviously, of course, was to strengthen the 11, but I still feel we all said we needed maybe a right-sided midfielder, for example, to start as well. Now I appreciate. I'm not saying that is the right thing. I'm just hypothetically talking.
And left back.
I feel it, left back definitely for me was a left back. But I feel that them have thought that, no, what we have as an 11 is good enough to continue and we'll bolster in the background and let the 11 get on with it. Now, it's only 4 games in. I'm not saying at all that that's the wrong policy or the wrong thing they've done. But it's evident, isn't it, that they've believed that this 11 that we have can just do that again. Mm-hmm. And on performances on Saturday, when you look and you go, well, can we?
But that's the performances against Villa, you think, they can.
Yeah, of course.
So weird,
I agree. And that's why it's a long season, and there's going to be times where we'll be sitting there going, they're the best 11 we've ever seen again.
I think there's a little bit of fallacy in what Ian's going with here, because a lot of people are looking at the figures, and you're looking at the fact that we spent, was it 25 on Livramento and then 35 on Hall. Now, 35 on Hall doesn't come out with this year's budget, so you can sort of forget about that. So it's not really counted just yet because the first season's alone. We've got to think about the money. And yes, we might have spent.
No, it's champ manager. You can do what you like.
So it's this money that's these extra millions of pounds. But you have to think that wages. I think it's the wage factor that comes into this, because we weren't going to say Maddison because we're not going to pay his 200 grand a week wages.
So there was a couple of comments, Daryl, about Maddison.
I would have loved him.
There was a couple of comments saying we should have got Maddison. We attempted, I think it was made pretty clear early on that Maddison didn't want to come.
Yeah.
And the wages were a huge factor. Would have been a great sign. Of course it would, because he's absolutely setting the world alight at Spurs. But
that's why we've got who we've got, because we can fit them into the structure for now. And then as long as the club keeps growing the way it's growing, then we'll be able to make those improvements and get those better players in. But
that's too sensible, Daryl.
I know, isn't it?
Too sensible. You're not allowed to have sensible conversations like that.
But didn't I'm sure when I watched the documentary, they had that screen up where it was like, positions, in terms of what they wanted to add.
Yeah.
100%. They only had Bruno as a 6, and then they had +1.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was in green, which was a matter of urgency. We need to replace or certainly have another option.
That's why they bought Tonali, isn't it?
But he's playing him right. He's playing him. He's playing him right side of the 3. And I just find that strange. That's what I'm still racking my brains on this one, like at the minute. Now, you know what it is.
Again, he's only four games into his career. He's got to adapt to the Premier League, adapt to the team, get used to the speed, the way it played, the physicality in there. And so is there just an element of trying to protect him a little bit and blood him in, doing it that way?
He's done it with everybody else,
so you feel by playing him the right side of the 3, that's blending him in and letting him get used to it rather than moving him to the middle?
Do you think the injury to Longstaff at the start of the season didn't really help? Do you think it would have been a different?
Because he's chucked him straight in.
Yeah.
But
he's chucked him straight in. Well, actually, blinder against Villa.
And Willock. I think if you're playing both,
big one.
Yeah. Of course it is. It's huge. It's huge. And
because would even Gordon be starting on the left wing every week?
It's if
Willock was fit.
It's a baptism of fire as well, because of the 3 games that. Yeah. Well, Villa, of course, as well. But the 3 games that we've had in a row,
he's finding out.
Bless him, it's a baptism of fire. So.
But he's still looking decent with it.
No, he is. He absolutely is. But I think that the problem you've got, right? I can't mention. So
it's not about him.
So you've got Maxi, right? Who you said
he doesn't even play for it, man.
No, but I need to elaborate on why I'm trying to use this as an analogy.
Nobody cares.
Forward number 10.
He had moments in games that no one else could do. But as chemistry for the team, we have to get rid of him because we need to be better as a team. Yeah. Now, Tonali's having moments in games, but that doesn't mean the chemistry in midfield's working. Just because he's having a good pass, he charges back a little bit. Now, I like Tonali. I'm not having a go. I'm just trying to say
he's doing a bit more than that.
No, but like, he might be having good moments in games, but so did my mate. But everyone says for the benefit of the team and all this, he has to go. Now, just because Tonali's
not over it, is he?
No, I'm definitely not. I'll never ever be over it, and I mean that ever. But if you, I know you're saying Tonali's been doing it, and he has, but it doesn't take a brain surgeon to realise that the midfield isn't working. Now, is that because Bruno's not in form and not playing as well? Sorry, I would definitely say that. Is it because you played Joe Linton, who hasn't trained all week? Quite possibly, and all actually. Do you know what I mean? So it's a combination. It's not just Tonali.
Do you think we'll say change? Brentford game.
I'd be absolutely stunned if it's the same 3 in the midfield. Like,
I agree with you.
I'd be stunned. Honestly, I would. Now, if Joe Linton, is obviously whatever been training, he's
imagine
fine.
Though when Tonali's the one that drops out.
It will be Tonali.
Imagine the reaction
from
people.
It will be, yeah.
I think we'll just revert back to how it was last season. I think that's what will happen.
And then
I think you might see. Look, it mightn't happen, but I think you'd see more from Bruno that way, because it gives him that license to then be able to get forward, because he knows Longstaff's going to be there alongside and being able to drop in and cover him and stuff like that, so that you don't get caught as much you get that interchanging more, which I hope with time that will come, and we'll see that more fluidity in the middle of the park with having Tonali in there. But it's just not there at the minute, and it's leaving Bruno exposed, which is then in turn to him looking like he's playing terribly.
Are you worried about the defensive mindset as well? Because we've lost Botman, okay, and I know it's been forced where there's been a couple of changes at the left back position as well. But we look shocking without Botman on the field, absolutely shocking.
Now, yes, I do agree, and I think though when you lose a player like Botman, like it's really hard to not look like you're missing him. If that makes sense.
You're essentially making 2 changes there as well, because you're moving Burn, who's played,
you want to trip on the last
18-3.
You want to put right back.
18. He's had 18 months at left back. If not, it went longer because he played there obviously all of the time for Brighton. So he's moving over. So there's a change straight away. So he's coming into that position. Played a couple of times there in pre-season and stuff like that, and then targets are coming. So really, you've had the 2 changes, and there's 2 changes down the left-hand side.
Well, I agree. I think when Burn first came, he played centre half early days, and he looked like a Rolls Royce. I remember you had that unbelievable game against Chelsea away, but we got caught in the last kick of the middle game, we lost. But anyway, and then you're talking 38 games, he's just stuck and played left back. So it is hard sometimes moving back into a different position. But he's played there before. He's got the experience. You would expect him to be able to manage it, but it is tough when you lose the likes of Botman. It really is. But I will go back to it again, though, that it's really hard when you have nobody protecting your back four. And I'm honestly within the game. Look at the price these players are going for in that position, because they're so valuable to teams, and we don't have one. Bruno's not that. He's not.
I don't know. Brighton seems to have replaced their number 6 easily enough.
Well, maybe, but I just feel until that chemistry's so. See, when you play the right hand side of the 3, right, you need someone that is comfortable with receiving the ball and traveling with the ball. And I don't see Tonali as that player. I'm not saying he's not comfortable, but he's not. He's not, is he? He's the type that gets the ball, has a look and passes it.
Pass and move.
Do you know what I mean? Which is fine. But that to me is someone that plays holding midfield. That's the player.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Do you think we might have that answer in the ranks though with young Miley?
Well, it's
and I understand it's probably way too early to put that on his head, but when you saw him in pre-season, that's the sort of job he does.
Do you know what is, Daryl? My issue with that is that he may be good enough, but remember what we saw with Jack Anik, I believe it was, where we stuck him in nets, and the poor kids. But he conceded about 11 goals. Didn't he concede something like 5 penalties in 3 games or something like that?
Longstaff was the same. We chucked him in the deep end against Chelsea, and he was man of the match.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Next question. Let's move on to the next one.
Anderson's is probably the more simple answer to that question.
Can I just before we move? Now that is one player that I feel incredibly sorry for.
Look good again when he came on, didn't he?
He was his pre-season for me. He should have started. Now, and it's easy to bow. It would be 5-1 the first game. We didn't need him. But you think if you what the pre-season he had, he was incredible. And to be left out, I did feel sorry for him. To be fair,
and I think that's where somebody that will breach that midfield and forward role. And he likes to drop across to the left as well, so you could see him and Gordon linking up nicely.
Right, let's go through a couple more. Okay. This one's from Will Palmer. That says, what do you think we need to do to get the form back? Keep tactics, change players, or change the team and formation? I feel we are predictable with the subs and what moves we are going to do going forward. It is very predictable, okay? And once again, we're going to have to put the caveat in there is that, yes, it's only 4 games into the season, okay? We're not getting ahead of ourselves here, okay? Far from it. But like we've just had that discussion there has to be changes. Yeah. There has to be.
Well, when you say changes, what do you think, personnel or formation?
I don't think we're going to change formation.
I think if we look at fit, then maybe we might see a bit of a formation change. But I think with the injuries which we're having, and God knows if Fabian Schär is going to be injured for a little while because he went off his hamstring again, didn't he? I think it's probably just going to be the one change, and it will be in midfield. And I think it'll be the one which we don't want. I think it'll be Tonali dropping out of that and Longstaff coming in, which I'm not saying bringing Longstaff in is the bad situation, because Longstaff, I like Longstaff, and I think those times last season we said when he's missing, then.
Well, you mentioned stats before there, the Sky stats with wins with Longstaff in versus out. I mean, how many times did we talk last season that we missed them when he wasn't in there? Hugely. Just you mentioned running as well. Yeah. He was always top of the charts for our running stats, and So it is sometimes the unsexy footballer that just goes a little bit.
You have to have that in your engine room. You have to have
you
that
have to have it.
player. You just have to. I think he'll definitely keep the same formation. Like, there's no way he'll change that. And we've had too much success with that. There's no need to change it. I don't think. I just think a little bit of personnel change, and I just feel certain players, we can get them involved in the game more often. Whereas I'll go back to it on Saturday. Gordon never got a kick.
Yeah,
we never went down the left hand side. Honestly, hardly once. If you go back to the Liverpool game, we're just feeding him the ball all the time.
First off, he was magnificent.
Let them get the fullback, and I didn't feel we did that at all on Saturday.
You think that might have been affected by the change we had to make at the back, with Byrne going into centre back and then Target coming in at left?
Well, ironically, isn't it? It's so funny you say that, because I would have thought Target would have given him more of an overlap and more of an opportunity. That wasn't the case at all.
Strange, isn't it?
But again, Target hasn't played a lot of football either. But at the same time, he was dreadful. He was dreadful, I thought, on Saturday.
Didn't think he was that bad.
You're just trying to wind me up.
No, I honestly, you know what? Of the back four,
Mark, you run faster than him.
I thought he was probably the best of the four.
He couldn't run.
There is that, but
there is that.
That's the big issue.
When you look at that back four, I think he probably played the best of the four.
Well, it's a low bar. Let's start that. It's a low bar. But goodness, he couldn't run.
He's tired. It's too hot.
Anyway,
he didn't go for a dip with Darryl before the game.
I want to end it on one thing, Darryl. I'm going to come to you for this one as well. Obviously, we'll get everybody's opinion, but we'll come to you because you were there. You were the Amex. One of the comments saying that was embarrassing that our fans were chanting for 20 minutes towards the end of the game. Saying that was very small club mentality for a team to be doing that.
I don't get those comments.
I don't get that.
Is that one of our fans saying that? Sorry.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that, from
there's loads on
our
media.
fans and fans of other clubs, because there's a lot of Twitter accounts, social media accounts have picked up on it. And for me, it's the difference between being a fan and a supporter. Because when the chips are down like that and you shit, it's not like we were celebrating the fact that we were losing 3-0. They were trying to get behind the team and encourage them to say, look, we know you've been crap today, but we are with you. We want and expect more.
We've done this we did it during the dark days, though. It's just what we are with that. With that passionate supporter, that when, like you say, when the chips are down, we just like stuff what's going on that pitch. Here we go, and we're just going to start singing and batting the lads from. That's because that's all we can do. We can't climb over the barrier and then start playing football ourselves or trying to.
I don't think I would look out of place if I was playing that.
Well, I'll tell you what.
What would you rather have done? Everybody fuck off after the third goal and just leave the away end?
Just stand in silence.
You're there. You're stuck there. You might as well bloody do something about it.
Yeah.
Try and encourage the team to try and it obviously worked. Wilson got a goal.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. These chants started 20 minutes before full time because it went on for a long time.
It went on for a long time. Yeah, and it was more or less the same song. Well, there you go.
Pretty much wasn't it? But I from start to finish, all you could hear was the Newcastle fans. It's not like they just weren't singing.
So are these people then trying to say, well, we shouldn't be like the loudest and best fans in the country?
I just don't.
We're not allowed to be that anymore.
It's insane. If that's your takeaway to say that's a problem, singing for however long, I'm lost, to be honest.
I mean, very, very similar to what happened at the cup final, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And everybody loved that.
You've got to.
Oh well, I've even seen comments of that. Oh well, that's. You shouldn't be celebrating losing. You're not celebrating losing.
No, we're not. We're just getting
behind
behind them.
To support the team.
It's.
I really do not understand how it is a small club mentality.
I'd love to know.
It's not like that we were there trying to just enjoy the day.
Exactly. I'd love to know if these people were in the away end in the concourse at Chelsea away on the last game of the season, where all you could hear before the game was the Anthony Gordon song, or again pre-game against Brighton on Saturday. If you were in that concourse, it was just a big party.
Yeah.
There's no wrong with it. It's people having a nice time, enjoying themselves.
It was the same last week. We're getting beat off Liverpool. The corner was still singing.
They mustn't like the corner beat these people. They must hate that corner.
Support. I do not get it.
I was more fuming when the second one went in against Liverpool, and I mean the world seemed to just evacuate. And I was like,
and you know what it is for me? Those people that are doing that, piss off.
Yeah.
If you can't be there when the chips are down, you're getting beaten, you're losing, then you don't deserve the good times.
Yeah,
I'm in agreement.
I certainly don't understand the problem of singing the song. I'm a bit of a loss to that one, but yeah.
Let's be honest, like it would have been a long ass day for all the
It's
fans that
horrendous
travelled.
trip.
I wonder what these people are going to say when we're like in the San Siro and we're
Getting
getting
beat
beat off AC Milan.
Let's sit down.
Aye. You
They'll
know.
walk. They'll go out. They'll walk
But
out.
yeah, I mean, that's just
Go and have a pizza.
that's our away following as a whole. It's what it's known for,
Yeah.
and you know, it's not going to change.
Then it shouldn't.
What does need to change? One thing. What's a question for you? For the Brentford game, what needs to change?
How long is a piece of string?
Well, to be fair, if people have noticed, I did put a tweet out after the game on, was it Saturday? We played Sunday?
Saturday night.
So we played on Saturday saying, put their thoughts in 4 words. There's one kid replied with an essay. I think he signed up to Twitter Blue just so he could put more characters for 4.
Now, his gripe was against Tonali, right?
Oh, I
Wasn't it?
think he had
him out
quite a
and-
few gripes.
yeah.
Does he list them in bullet point order?
I feel like it will be Tonali that gets the drop.
Yeah.
Like I think it will, because I think he might try and go back to something that he knows has worked before. Yeah.
And if that fails, then that's when you've started to look and think, right, we need to do something here.
Yeah, I think the problem you've always got, haven't you, the second season, obviously whatever you did
Syndrome.
before has worked so well.
Somebody replied in last week saying this is the second season.
Second season
Syndrome.
syndrome.
But you have got to be careful, because the opposition know how you can hurt them. Do you know what I mean? And for example, the right hand side it was a huge success for us, whereas you could probably say it hasn't been anywhere near as effective probably this time round. Because people are maybe double up on that side, or they understand how you're going to play, and it's up to us to find new ways. But as long as you've got to adapt. Yeah. But there is a big problem in that midfield. I think it doesn't look right at all, does it? And there is, again, there's
But the thing is it just needs to click.
yeah.
It just needs to click.
That's what
And that's what we're missing.
Is this not? This was a comment.
That's what needs to change. We need a click.
Well, there was a comment and do you know what it is? Remember back in the England days where Lampard and Gerrard used to play, and people used to say it'll click, and never did. They couldn't play together. I hope we're not going to see a similar situation with Bruno and Tonali.
Aye, but you were playing two very similar players in a.
Would you not say these two are
these
very
are
similar
supposed to be
players?
similar,
But
but
not
they're
in
not
the
in
same
a.
role?
But you're playing them in a 3, aren't you? Whereas when we're looking at the England team, it was a completely different formation.
2 on it. It was
You had the 2 in the middle of the park, so you did.
Would you? Well, listen, we are going to do this, and I'm not. I'm just thinking, which is dangerous. 4-2-3-1. Bruno, Tonali being the sitters. Sit in front of your back 4. If Willock was back, might work
With
better.
Willock,
You could
that's
have
what I said
Willock
before,
higher in that triangle in midfield if you like. Wingers and striker doesn't change, but you'd have you've got 2 sitting deeper.
And we did that
to
a couple
offer
of
a bit
times.
protection,
We did that last season.
Yeah.
We had Bruno and Longstaff, and we had Willock in front.
No, but can I just say that everything I've just said there means Joe Linton's on the bench, and I would hate to do that because I
Not
love
necessarily,
Joe Linton.
because
go
you would
back out
play
to the left,
Yeah,
couldn't
you
we?
would play because that's
I
why
know
you
that's
have,
harsh on Gordon.
yeah, but that was when you had Joe Linton and Willock swapping around in game.
Yeah, I know I've seen a few people online saying Gordon should be playing right wing instead of Miggy. Now, I personally, when I look at the performance Gordon put in against Liverpool in the 15 minutes against Villa, he has to play the left hand side, like, because he's so dangerous, so direct, and I feel him coming inside. I mean, Craig, that Liverpool game alone, he scored from there, come inside and set Isak away for the red card. He is dangerous coming from the left hand side, so I think he has to stay there personally.
But then that keeps Bonds out of the team, who's
It does,
not
but
getting a sniff as well.
His time will come. He could play right hand side, but then again, you drop Miggy. Everyone else seems to be a fan of it, but I was just thinking out loud. I just think, personally speaking, right, I would rather see Tonali being that number 6, being that holder in midfield. That's
Push
what I
Bruno
would.
higher.
And I think
And
at
maybe-
home
maybe.
against Brentford, you could maybe get away with it.
Maybe.
So if you wanted to, experiment and see it, or is it something
Surely,
that waits
but,
until wait until the cup game? But you can't because we've got bloody Man City.
That's the problem though. If let's say you draw against Brentford, then you've got Milan away, then you've got Sheffield United away, isn't it? And then City, City, then Sheffield United. It's just tough, isn't it? If you know what I mean. And
It's only going to get harder throughout the season.
The Brentford game seems huge. It feels huge. And it's ridiculous because we're only 5 games in, but it just feels big.
That's what she said.
Occasionally. But
on that note, thanks everybody that has been watching us live. Thanks everybody that is listening back to the audio as well. As always, if you are listening to the audio, you had a happy meal.
Sorry, no, I wish. No, I'm really worried, about moving forward. I'm just nervous. I'm just nervous.
If you're listening to the audio, just give us a 5-star rating. It helps us out massively. And if you are watching the YouTube video, just like the video, become a subscriber. It costs you absolutely nothing to do that. If you do want to give it extra bit back and gain extra content and early access, you can become a member. It is just $2.99 a month to do that. You get, like I said, early access to videos, more videos, and access to the Telegram group and the Discord community as well.
And if you're watching this back not live, stick some comments as well, because that always helps us get pushed on the algorithms. It's a nice word for
Easy
you.
for you, is it?
Algorithm.
Algorithm.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Bye.